So, welcome to our Time Mastery workshop. I think, is this your first one? Yeah.
Yes.
So, just so you're aware, there's a series of 6 of these that cover sort of what I would call the fundamentals of business, from finance, marketing, sales, customer service, and team. But this is generally the one that most people have interest in, because the ones that can't make it are generally saying, well, I can't make it because I don't have enough time. So that's really why obviously it's always an important one to be thinking about. So we're going to be looking at some goal setting, why time management is more of a problem for some people than others, and to really give you some tools that you can use that can really help get control and start helping you manage your time in a better way. So before we go into that, though, what I'd like to sort of really get from you guys, and so we can can sort of put it in the chat box, but we can just sort of talk it through. Is there a particular area of time management that is a challenge for you at the moment? Or if there was one thing you'd like to get out of today, what would it be? So what's it for you, Lucy?
So in general, it's just sort of how to manage time a bit better and being a bit more efficient with it. But also just being a bit proactive and organising like priorities, what's most important, how long is that going to take? And I know the work can just sometimes get thrown in there. So it's like how to prepare for when I might need to change my plans last minute, which is probably what I'm not so great at dealing with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's for me.
Okay, cool, good. We'll definitely cover that. Peter?
What Lucy just said, and also prioritizing clients, kind of prioritizing sales work alongside or proposal work alongside of just your general day-to-day, and also where and how to fit in the kind of firefighting stuff that crops up quite a lot.
Yeah,
in what we do.
Yeah. So prioritizing the priorities,
yeah,
and then fitting it all into the 24 hours that we've got. So, yeah. Cool, good. You're pleased to know that there is no such thing as time management. You cannot manage time. You have as many hours in a day as the most successful people on this planet. You have the same amount of time as the richest people. You have the same amount of time as the poorest people. So it's the one thing that we all have in equal measure, whether you're intelligent, whether you're rich, whether you're famous, doesn't matter what it is. It's the only thing that is consistent between every single human being out there. So it's not managing the time. What it is about managing ourselves. This is all internally focused stuff. So when we look at that, and I start all of my workshops with this little formula. So what do I want to have equals who do I need to be? What do I need to do? So have is our dreams and our goals. So clarity around where we're going. B is our attitude, knowledge, and skills. And the do is what do we actually do? So if we looked at these 3 things, I said to you, which you've got to be successful in anything. So it could, if you want to be successful in sport, if you want to be successful in art, if you want to be successful in your job, but if you want to be successful in time management particularly, all 3 things have to be in place, but one of them is more important than the other 2. Any idea, Lucy, which one would you say is the most important in let's say in respect of time management?
In respect to time management.
Yeah. But in respect of anything, but let's keep it into the time management focus.
Well, I think it's definitely how you, because time management with how you approach things and your attitude towards it, that's something. Like, for example, if you don't want to do something, your attitude towards it might be quite negative, therefore it might take a bit longer. So yeah. I feel like that's kind of the important one to work on.
Yeah, and I did say that this is an internal thing. This is a lot of it is not managing the time that's external, it's managing how we approach it.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, so you're going for the B, Peter. Do you want to back Lucy, or are you going to go a bit maverick and go for something else?
I'll go maverick and say do, because you can have the right attitude and you have the right plan, but unless you actually put that into action, maybe it becomes a bit pointless.
Yep. So if you could know all the stuff, but unless you're actually doing it, then you're not going to move forwards.
Yep.
Okay, so Lucy's going to go for the B. and Peter's going to go for the do, and it's a shame we haven't got Kaylee on, because that would leave her with the have, and I'm here to tell you that Kaylee would have been right. Okay, so with all forms of success, if you want to be successful at anything, clarity around what success looks like is the most important thing. Because once you know what you want to have, then you know who you need to be and what you need to do. And if you want to have more, you've got to be more and do more. But until you're clear what it is you want to have, then you won't be or you won't do enough. And this is what I find with the majority of people in life, so this is not just in time management, but we'll focus on time management. It's those people that are busy, and aren't managing their time. When I ask them, so what is it that you want? What does good look like? They don't really know. Because what they've done is they've jumped on the hamster wheel and they're running round. They're not working on their B, their knowledge, beliefs, attitude, and skills, because, well, why do I need that? What is it that I need to learn? If I don't know where I'm going to go, then I don't really know which direction I need to sort of travel in. I think it was the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. When Alice gets to the crossroads and says, "Which direction should I take?" and the cat says, "Where are you going?" She says, "I don't know." She says, "Well, any road will do." And that's where the majority of people are within their sort of view of time management. So we've got to be clear what our goals are before we can even start on the time management route. Oh, well, I did put that as a quote. There you go. So it shows you how embedded it is in my brain. So why goals are important? Because of that, that gives me the direction. And if you've set a goal and you're not there, then you should be able to then work out, well, what's missing? Why am I not living the life that I want to? Why am I not in control of my time? Why am I not doing the things I should be doing? But until you've got a visualization of what it is you want, it's very difficult then to change your behaviors and change your actions to actually make it work. So I just lost my presentation there. So if we think about why goals are important, and this stems back to the organization, and how, because we're looking at time management within a work situation. There's a little thing that I use here, which is really about the essence of building a business. So a business is built on its core values, the culture within an organization. It has a clear purpose of where it's going to go. So the company should know where it's going to go. If the company doesn't know where it's going to go, so we do it with the people in the company to know where it needs to be going. And we break those down into targets. We call them big, hairy, audacious goals. So this is the 3 to 5 year goal of the business. So these really should be set by business owners. So that's what I've been doing a lot with Ranjit, a lot with Rob, about where's the company going to go? Where's it going to be in 3 to 5 years' time? Then those targets gets broken down into more manageable goals. So now we start to get a lot more smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic in a time frame. Then we break those down into quarterly actions, weekly schedules, and daily activity. So from a company point of view, if as team members of the company, if we're not clear what the purpose and the targets and the goals of the company, then it's very difficult for us personally to have our own. Okay, so the first thing is, if I'm not sure where the company is going to go, I need to ask Rob or Ranjit or whoever it is, what are we trying to achieve here? What is the aim of the business? Once we know that, once we know where the company is going to go, then we need to work out our own roles, responsibilities, and how our actions are going to help it move forwards. Because it's very difficult, certainly as a business grows, each individual part of what we do in a business becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So sometimes it's very difficult to actually sort of think, well, what I'm doing here, well, how is that influencing the growth of the business? If we can align it to the growth of the business, then we can be much clearer of what will be expected of us. So the goals are important from the big picture. They're also important from the internal fact of how our brain works. So our brains are been evolving for millions of years, okay? And part of the brain, which is in here, is called the reticular activating system. So basically, it's like a little filter sits. Sorry, I'm using the wrong thing. There's a little filter sits about here, where the brainstem comes in, and actually filters out information from what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, and what you feel. Okay, so your 5 senses comes through here and gets filtered, because you can imagine if every sense, every smell, every sound was allowed into your brain would fry. Okay, and this is where you have some people with mental illness or mental deficiencies, is their filters not working enough. So they get bombarded with so much information that their brains just go, I can't cope with this. Okay, and that's where a lot of issues can come with children and also adults as well. So an easy way to sort of see this in action, this reticular activating system, is, and power of goals, is what I want you to do is, in a second, I want you to look around the room that you're in and count the number of red things that you see. Okay, so just have a quick look around the room. How many red things do you see? Okay, cool. And then back to me, and then just look at the screen. So Lucy, how many red things did you see?
About 25.
25. That's
Yeah.
good counting. Pete, can you beat 25?
No.
Okay, what did you get?
What's on screen? So about 8 or 9 plus 5 in the room.
8 or 9 plus 5 in the room. Okay, so keep looking at the screen. How many green things did you see?
On the screen?
No, as you look around the room.
Oh.
Don't look around the room, look at me.
Oh. 2?
Yeah.
2, but that's a guess, isn't it?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Okay, so what happened there is you saw the green things, because you can't not see things. Your eyes took in the information, you looked around the room, but I programmed your reticular activating system to look for red things. Therefore, red things is all you saw. And this is the power of goals. Goals allow the reticular activating system to work for you, rather than what happens if you don't program it, works against you. It filters out stuff that is useful, that you need, but because you didn't ask for it, it says, no, I don't need that stuff. So, and this is why when you get into busyness, your line of focus becomes more and more narrow, because you're focusing on, I've got to get this job done, I've got to get this job done, I've got to get this job done. So your focus, your reticular activator is right. Anything that's outside to actually help me do this job, I'm going to ignore, including probably tons of things that actually help me do this job a lot quicker. So this is the power of, our brains are our most, useful asset, but they can also be our biggest hindrance. And a real challenge with that. So if we understand that your goal setting is, so we come back to time management, come back to success, goal setting is important, but come back to time management, clarity around your goals is the most important. So if you're sitting there going, what do I prioritize? What do I prioritize? It's not what do you prioritize, it's what is my goal? What I've lost sight is what is important. What am I trying to achieve? Because if you've got 5 things that are of priority, then nothing's a priority.
Yep.
Okay. Now, and this can be hard, because sometimes you're balancing multiple things in your life. If you're married, you've got a partner, you've got kids, you've got a boss, you've got all these things. You're trying to juggle the priorities of them. Okay, but the better you become actually setting your goals for each of them, and then working on who do I need to be and what do I need to do, then the more in control you're going to be. It's still going to be tough. You still have to get a lot of things done, but you're going to feel more in control. And if you feel in more control, then you'll actually sort of do better things as well.
Mhm.
So as we understand the way our reticular activating system works, we've then got to understand, well, there's actually 3 types of goal that we can set ourselves. Okay, because our brain has developed in 3 layers over the years. The first level, which is driven from our basic reptilian brain function. So this is what we share with all other animals. The reptilian brain is basically there to keep us alive and maintain the species. Okay, so it does fight, flight, keeps us fed, keeps us warm, and makes sure that, you know, we're able to continue and reproduce as well. Okay, so it's our basic needs. So that part of our brain is extremely powerful. Okay, it really drives us away. So if suddenly a big grizzly bear came into the room, Lucy, yeah, would you sort of sit there and go, oh, I really need to think about my plans for the future and where I need to be, and perhaps I should write a little business plan and things like that?
Yeah, no, you just get out.
Okay, you wouldn't need to think about it. You know, you would have an involuntary reaction to a situation. So what happens with that part of the brain, it drives the adrenaline into your system, yeah, which narrows the focus into short term. Okay, so if you can imagine you're running away from the bear, yeah, are you thinking about what you're going to be doing at the weekend?
Probably not.
Are you going to be thinking about where you're going to be in a year's time?
No.
No, because if I survive this minute, then I've done well. So people who are constantly under stress, constantly under pressure, bombarded from left and right by the modern equivalent of bears, because we don't have bears now, but we have emails, we have, you know, phone calls, we have, you know, schools, we have other versions of, you know, of bears that are in our life. If we're constantly under pressure from that, yes, it makes us do more, so we get up and we actually do more, but our focus and our vision is very, very short term and very narrow. So it's great at getting things done quickly, but it's absolutely useless in longer term planning and strategy. Okay, so the first thing to understand is if you get into that, you know, running away, you know, busyness, you've got to understand, be very careful, because I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, because if there's a bear in the room, you've got to run away from it. Yeah, but you've got to be very careful that if you don't get away and have time then time to think, then all you're going to do is be constantly running away from bears. And eventually you'll get so used to running away from the bear that even when the bear's gone, you're still running away. Okay, so it's an extremely powerful driver for individuals to do stuff. Okay, but it's not that intelligent, it's not that great. Is this the right thing I should be running away from? So as humans, we've developed a second level of brain function. We share this pretty much with all high-level mammals. Okay, so it's our limbic system, it's our relationship brain. Okay, it's our emotional brain. This is about what we do, you know, that makes us feel good. What do I want to achieve? Yeah, so this takes a little bit more time. So you're running away from a bear, I don't have to take time to think about it. But what I want in life actually takes more time. I've got to sit there and think. And if we've been constantly running away, sometimes this part of our brain is underdeveloped and it's harder to actually work on. So what we've got to look in here is, right, so what I don't want is, I don't want to be sort of running around, I don't want to be overly busy, I don't want to be working 10 hours a day. Well, that's great. But what we've then got to do is say, right, now what do I do want? What do I want my day, my week, my month to actually physically look like? What's the balance? How many hours should I be spending in each part of my business? but also not only from a time perspective, but also a personal perspective. You know, where do I personally want to be in a year, 2 years time? Because if I'm not moving towards that, then I'm either going to be static or I'm going to be moving away from it. Okay, so towards pleasure, it takes more time, it takes more effort, but is really powerful to move us forward. The third factor is then the next level of our brain function is our neocortex. So we've got the reptilian brain, which we share with all animals, the limbic system we share with high-level primates and high-level mammals, and the neocortex is something that is unique to human beings. Because the neocortex is our thinking brain, it's our human brain. I think, therefore I am, Descartes. Yeah, it's our ability to actually self-reflect, to think about ourselves. You know, you pick a cat up and you show it the mirror, the cat doesn't see itself. It has no concept of self. Okay, and they're talking a lot about this in artificial intelligence. Until robots have a conscious of self, yeah, they will just be robots. So we have this conscious of self, which is extremely powerful, but again, yeah, extremely troublesome, because our brain here can actually project into the future, so it can visualize things in the future, and it can learn from the past. Most animals live in the moment. They live in the now, right now. How do I feel right now? They're not thinking about what am I going to do for tomorrow? How am I going to put food on the table tomorrow? They're not thinking about, well, what went wrong today? What do I learn? What can I do differently? Okay, they are programmed to survive, you know, and if they're pack animals, you know, their limbic system is about relationships within the pack. We have this neocortex, which is extremely powerful and has this ability to project into the future, you know, and therefore we need to harness that and start actually assessing, well, what is it that we actually want? So when we come to time management, for me, one of the most important things is, until you understand what good looks like and what time management, you know, is, you know, your ideal, then there's no way you're going to actually create it. So we have a little saying, you know, it's called IVVM. So if you just write this down, IVVM, and it stands for idealize, visualize, verbalize, materialize. Idealize, visualize, verbalize, materialize. So if I can have an idea and I can visualize it, and then I can verbalize it out to somebody else, then I have the chance of it actually happening. If I can't do that, then there's no way. It's just going to be by luck or chance that it happens. No guarantee it'll happen, because you've still got to be and do, but if you've actually got the vision of what you want to achieve, then you can actually move forwards. So whatever, and this applies, say, for everything in life, whatever you want in life, you're either going to be moving away from something you don't want, which is good in the short term, moving something towards that you do want, which is much better, but at some point you get everything you could possibly want. Okay, that you're comfortable. I don't need any more stuff, you know, I've got enough of this. And you see a lot of people that are almost addicted to shopping. So they think that they need the next pair of shoes, you know, you know, for me it was golf clubs. You know, I need another bloody golf club. No, I don't need another bloody golf club. I can't use the ones I've got. So there's always something, because that's tapping into the limbic system, which is an emotion that when I buy it, I get a reward. Yeah, I feel good once I've bought it. But then you look at those people and they end up buying clothes and buying things that they never use, because it's not what they really wanted. It's just they're caught in this limbic system of, you know, of reward, of actually, you know, I've achieved something, therefore I get a reward. What we've got to understand is, when we move into our neocortex, actually what drives us more than anything is not what we do for ourselves, it's what we do for others. Our neocortex is much more about purpose. we get far more pleasure about helping other people, yeah, than we ever do helping ourselves. And once you understand that, you know, once you help yourself is great, it gets you so far, but beyond that, you've got to start thinking that, you know, if I want to keep being driven, I want to keep being motivated, it's got to be beyond me. And that's the beauty of having, you know, being part of a company is, look, I can be successful and I can help the company be successful. And if the company's successful, all those clients I'm going to help, yeah, all those suppliers I'm going to help. Yeah, even, you know, when I talk to you know, the likes of Ranjit and Rob, I say, look, even the taxes you pay, you know, you should be pleased that you're helping other people. Okay, so and this really comes from that sort of abundance mentality, yeah, that you have an abundant mindset here, because we're doing this not just for ourselves, but also to help the community, to help the team, to help others. Okay, so we move away from pain, we move towards the pleasure and all the nice things that we want, but beyond that, it's also about helping other people. Any questions around?
No, that makes sense to me.
Cool. So just as a bit of a, yeah, aside, if you sort of looked at those 3 levels, Lucy, where would you sort of be sitting right now?
I know that I've done something not dissimilar before, and I've got an emotional brain. I would say, like, I'm quite emotionally driven.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's helping others is more of my priority than putting myself first, which I'm trying to learn against doing, because you can't help others until you're sorted with yourself a little bit.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
You know? You're right. You know, when you're on the airplane, when they do the demonstration, they say always put your mask on first before you help other people. So, you know, so there is that side of it. And so, you know, go back to time management. If you can't manage your own time, you can't help other people manage their time. So, you know, this is why it's sort of these 3 levels that you need to go through them. You don't have to stay them. If you take someone like Mother Teresa, you know, she bypassed the first 2 levels and went straight and dedicated her life to serving other people. Great. That's fantastic. She was obviously wired differently to me because, you know, actually I do want stuff. Okay. So that's really what, you know, we've got to understand the importance of goal setting. So number 1 in time management, if you're not clear what your goals are, you're going to struggle with time management.
For sure.
When we look at what I call, if you've heard of SMART goals, have you, Peter?
No, not at all.
No? Okay. So SMART goals is an acronym that's been around for many, many years. Yeah, and stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic in a time frame. I took that and thought, you know, that to me is what is called very left brain. Okay, so you know the concept of left brain, right brain. So left brain is our logical side, yeah, and our right brain is our emotional side. So if you look at it really, left brain is neocortex, yeah, and right brain is limbic system. Okay, and the other way to remember that is the 2 sides of our brain also control the different sides of our body. Yeah, so do you know what side the right side of the brain controls?
Left.
The left side. Okay, I don't know why it's wired that way, but it's the opposite side. So left brain controls the left side, so right brain controls the left side, and left brain controls the right side. So when they say you're making an emotional decision, they say you're making a decision of the
Right side.
Right side, yeah, but when you make an emotional decision, you're making a decision of the
Heart.
Okay, what side of the body is the heart on?
Left.
The left side. Yeah, what side of the brain controls the left side of the body?
Right.
The right side. What part of our brain is the right side? The limbic system, the emotional brain. So it's nothing to do with you make a decision by your heart. It's just a right side brain activity. Okay. So people who dream, you know, generally dream because they're sort of, you know, the dreamers are the sort of the people that are good at setting goals. You know, oh yeah, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to get this. So they're very good at the right side of the emotional bit, but what they lack is then the doing, the activity. So when they came up with the SMART acronym, yeah, this was somebody saying to those right brain emotional thinkers, actually, you've got to get a bit of logic behind this. You've got to narrow your goal down to something that's really specific. That is, I say you can hang your coat on it. Too many goals are fluffy. I want to be successful. Well, what does successful mean? Yeah, I want more time. Well, more time. What does that mean? 1 more minute? 30 seconds? 4 hours? So when we set a goal, we've got to get it really sort of turn it away from this emotional feeling into a real tangible, because that's what our left brain can deal with. Our neocortex can deal with logic and processes. Okay, so if I want more time, right, how much more time? When do you want that time? What does that time look like? Yeah, is it measurable? So generally I've got to put a number on it. Okay, it's not all measures need to be that, but to be honest, even, you know, an emotional thing can be turned into a measurable thing. Because if I said to you, Lucy, feeling happy, okay, how do you measure the feeling of happiness?
Oh, that's hard actually. I don't know, just contentment and good things going on around. I don't know.
Yeah, but how would I measure it? I can't. You know, there's no scale of happiness, is there? I can't weigh it. I can't.
The amount of pizza. I don't know. I don't really know. I haven't thought. Can't think that far. I don't know.
So it's difficult then to say, you know, if I want to improve my happiness, I want to be more happy, and I said, right, you need to be more specific and measurable. Or how do I do that? Well, you do it by something very, very easy that I said to you, Lucy, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you?
Right now?
Right now.
I'd say an 8.
Right, excellent. Okay, so now we've put a measure on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I said to you, what's your goal for next week? Yeah, if 8 is today, what do you want to be next week?
Always a 10.
Always a 10. Okay, so we want to go from an 8 to a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is that achievable? Yeah, within and realistic within a time frame?
Yes and no. Maybe you could get to a 9.
Well, okay, so maybe it's in a week it's a 9.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've put a measure on it, we've made it specific, we've given it a time frame. Now we can come up with a plan that says, right, in order for you to get to an 8, from an 8 to a 9, what would be 3 things that we could do in order to achieve that?
Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to list them?
If you want to.
Oh no, I'm happy. I'm happy to go with that. It's all good.
But I was using that really to sort of show you that even in a fluffy goal that is, I want to be happier. Yeah. By going through the SMART process, starts to put meat on the bones. It starts to bring it down and saying, right, oh shit, now I've committed now to go from an 8 to a 9.
Yeah.
In a week. So now your neocortex is thinking, right, now what do I need to do in order to achieve that? And that was the whole reason they brought SMART into this, that it needs to be a SMART goal, because that's what engages the neocortex, which is your thinking brain, which is your problem solving brain, is what gets things done. Yeah. If you didn't have that, then you're just going, I just need to be a bit happier. Well, again, you've got nothing to work with on that one.
Yeah.
The reason I took it and said, actually, what we need to do is smartify it, because if you remember, Smarties have the answer. Yeah, that there were some people that are, you know, bringing SMART goals and found them quite dull and boring. you know, and they ended up with goals that were just, you know, they were smart, but they weren't inspiring. There's no emotion behind them. So I said, look, your goals have to be inspiring and emotional, because we want that right side of the brain to work with the left side.
Yeah.
Because you want to use your whole brain, not just the logical part, because that will get stuck at some stage, because some problems are unsolvable. And when they're unsolvable, you've got to kick in your emotional brain that says, okay, what do I feel is the right way, and just go with it. Okay, so that was the reason of smartifying our goals. You know, if they're smart, yeah, and they're inspiring and emotional, then we can work towards that. So when we're looking at time management, yeah, what we've got to start doing is actually setting, you know, smarty goals. So if we looked at, you know, time goals, you know, how much time you want to spend working on the business, you know, which is your planning, your strategizing, and actually in it, doing it. Yeah, if you're doing multiple jobs, how many hours should I be spending doing this job? How many hours should I be spending doing that job? Because until you define it the best you can, then you're not going to you're not going through that IVVM process of visualizing what you want, and therefore it's more likely to stay as it is. So is it, you know, working on or in? Is it more time with the family? Is it time to do your own stuff? Is it time to learn? Okay, we've got to start saying this is how I would like my time to go, because then I've got a pattern that says, right, this is what I want. This might be the reality over here, but they may be completely different, but at least I've now got something that I'm working towards. It's a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so if I gave you a jigsaw puzzle and turned all the pieces upside down, yeah, and threw away the box, yeah, you're going to struggle to make the jigsaw. Okay, so what I need to do is give you the box. You've got to turn all the pieces all over. You've got to find the corners. You've got to find the straight lines. You've got to put them into colors. That's what we start doing. That's why planning then is so important, because that's the planning process. Is actually, right, I need a picture of what I'm trying to build, and then I need to get my corners in place and then get the pieces ready and make sure, have I got all the pieces? Do I need to learn more pieces? You know, and that's when I start working on my B, my knowledge and my skills. Okay, so we've got to start getting better at goal setting, and there's nobody out there, you know, me included. I've been teaching this for 15 years, you know, and I'd still say I'm so far away from being a master of goal setting. Yeah, it's a continual process. You're always learning and improving. So then, once we know where we're going to go, what good looks like, what we're trying to build, then we can work on our beliefs. Okay, so these are something we hold to be true. And our beliefs around time, you know, can often hold us back. So what would be some negative sort of phrases around time that perhaps you've used in the past?
I don't have enough time, too busy.
Don't have enough time. Yep, that's a classic one. Yep.
I don't know. Yeah, that was the only one that came to my head. Time is money. I hate that phrase because I think I waste a lot of it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the only ones that I can think of.
I mean, that's the classic one. Yeah, I don't have enough time. There isn't enough time. There's not enough hours in the day. Okay, I've got too much work to do than I can get done. The more that we say these things to ourselves, the more we believe them, and the more we start to act in accordance with them. So if I kept on saying to myself, there's never enough time in the day, yeah, what potentially would that actions would that drive?
You just believe you don't have enough time to do work, so you're not going to do it all.
Yeah, I'm never going to get it done, so what's the point in trying? Or jobs will take twice as long because, well, I'm never going to achieve them all, so I might as well just spend the time doing the one or two that I enjoy doing. So we've got to be careful when we start using language, okay, that is what I call a negative set of beliefs that could be holding us back. Okay, because business is not busyness. If you're playing the game well, yeah, you should not feel overly busy. You should always be stuff to do, but it shouldn't be to the point of stress. Okay, there will be times where yes, you've got to work more hours in a day, in a week than you would normally do it. Okay, because that's just the way life goes. Some shit happens and sometimes you've got to react. But if that's the norm, if you're working too many hours every single day, then that's not normal. Okay, working extra almost should be a choice. You should say, yeah, I'm willing to commit to this now because that's important to me. Yeah, but it shouldn't feel the fact that I'm busy, being a busy fool. Now, if we're feeling that, yeah, what I'm saying is that's the belief should be that's not normal. Therefore, we need to come up with a plan of how we get out of it. You can't just turn around and say, right, well, I shouldn't be busy, so I'm off at 5 o'clock and leave everything behind. So what we've got to work towards is, right, well, I understand this isn't normal, so how do I actually move forward to where I want to be? What are the next steps I need to take? Because if you think about it, time is actually more important than money. Yeah, if you lose money, you've got time to get it back. Once you've spent your time, no amount of money can actually get any time back. And that might be, time for yourself, time for the family, time for the kids, time to learn. All these things are important. So it is a case of, how do I manage this? How do I get everything done in that period in order to actually move forward? So until you respect your time, yeah, no one else is going to respect it for you. So if you're running around being busy, yeah, it's very difficult for other people to sort of, I suppose, help you out and give you time. And I think, I suppose where I was coming from with the reticular activating system, if your reticular activating system is running away from danger, what you're missing is other people potential that could help you. Or actually sitting down saying, look, I've got too many things on, I've got too many priorities, I don't know how to prioritize, help. Let's take a step back and look at this and say, is this the right way to achieve it? Is there a better way? Okay, because there's generally going to be a better way. You might not see it. One of your work colleagues, Rob, Peter might see it. Somebody outside the organization might see it. Sometimes you're too close, and you can't see the wood for the trees. And there's no harm in actually asking and saying, look, I should be able to deal with this, but I'm not. I'm not making progress. I'm not moving forward. It's like wading in treacle. So if we think about our limiting beliefs, people that struggle the most with time management, yeah, generally the people that live down here. Okay, they live in blame, excuses, and denial. It's always somebody else's fault. There's an excuse why things haven't been done. Oh, I couldn't get that project done because of this, because of that, or I'm just blissfully unaware that there are deadlines and priorities that need to be sorted. So what we want to be doing is saying, look, we need to take ownership, hold ourselves accountable and be responsible. The only person that can sort out your time management issues is you. No one else. Okay, as I said, they're all internally driven. Now that might be, replanning and saying no to people and saying I can't do this or I shouldn't do that or delay that. It could be things that will affect the outside world, but they're all internally driven. And when you're managing other people, you've also got to be sort of looking out for the fact that the people will start using blame, excuse, and denial. And part of your job as their manager is to bring them up above the line. Help them take responsibility, help them hold them accountable, and make sure they start taking ownership. Okay, this is what I find with a lot of people is, again, goes back to those limiting beliefs. They believe that they're not in control of their time, and therefore, if they believe that, then the only way they can move forwards is to blame and make excuses, because it can never be your fault. And if we're trying to change behavior, okay, if we're trying to change somebody's behavior and so go from somebody who's not good at time management to somebody who's good at time management, behavior drives our actions, decisions, and results. So if I looked at you two, and I looked at your behavior, what I'm seeing is a tip of the iceberg. Okay, what I don't see is what's below the iceberg. So in order to change somebody's behavior, there's a number of levels that we need to look at. And the first level is, do you have the skill that's needed to deliver the behavior that we're asking for? Okay, and that's in effect why you're on this time management course. Okay, because there are sometimes some skills that you could learn that can help with this behavior. Okay, so changing somebody's behavior by giving them skills is generally quite easy, isn't it? It takes a bit of effort. You've got to learn something, read a book, come on a course, digest it, implement it. It's not that difficult. Compare that to changing somebody's beliefs. Okay, so if you've got some negative beliefs around time or anything else, just putting you onto a training course is unlikely to change those beliefs. Okay, how do you think beliefs are generally changed?
Like changing a pattern of behavior, and then you can, as back to your last slide, you take ownership of it and you actually start believing you can do it.
Yeah. So let's say that Lucy was always late for meetings. Okay, she's always 10 minutes late for meetings. You weren't today, so well done. But let's say that you were one of those people, and you've known these people that are always late for meetings. Now, I could put you on a time management course that says don't be late for meetings. Yeah, but you're still late for meetings. So there's a belief system, your thinking, says it's okay to be late for meetings, isn't it? That might come from other things. Well, the meeting's not that important. I'm not letting anybody down. There might be 101 reasons why you would believe it's okay to be late. Training is the way you change skills and improve skills. The only way that you deal with beliefs is challenge them. So I'd need to sit down with you, Lucy, and say, Lucy, I've had 10 meetings so far, and you've been late for 90% of them. What's going on? What is it that you think is it's okay to be late? Because from my perspective, it's not. We need to be starting on time. Clive Woodward, I don't know if you remember Clive Woodward, the England rugby coach from a few years ago. So when he was building his World Cup winning team, they came up with a set of rules, and one of those rules was, on time means 10 minutes early. Okay, so he challenged the beliefs and said, look, if you don't believe that, if you don't believe on time is 10 minutes early, then you're not in the team. You don't have to stay here, you can go. But I need to challenge those beliefs, yeah, in order to change that behavior. So skills is quite easy. I'll just put you on a training course. How easy is challenging somebody's beliefs?
Pretty difficult, because it's a force of habit, I suppose. It's something that's been maybe accepted for so long.
It's been accepted, but if you're managing, let's say you're managing somebody, yeah, and you believe that their beliefs are different to your beliefs, you know, and you've got to challenge them, how do you feel about challenging somebody else's beliefs?
It depends on the person quite a lot, but in general, it's part of your role, isn't it, if you're managing them?
Yeah. But is it as easy as sending them on a training course?
No.
No, it's far more emotionally charged, isn't it? This is where the limbic system kicks in. Yeah, this is just neocortex, you know, go and learn some stuff. Okay. Yeah, this is now limbic system, potentially a reptilian brain. Because if I challenge you and you don't like that challenge, you're going to go into reptilian brain, which means you're going to fight, flight, or freeze. And if you're a aggressive person and you're going to fight, yeah, and I'm a bit more of a passive person, well, I know if I challenge you on that, you're going to blow up. So what would I generally do?
Tried to convince them of your point without saying it.
Okay, what do most people do in that situation?
Avoid it.
Avoid it. Okay, so basically, I know if I bring Pete up on the fact that he's always late for meetings, Pete's going to throw his toys out of the pram. He's going to go on a bit of a tantrum. I can't be doing with that, so I'll leave it. The problem is if I leave it, what has that said to Peter?
That it's acceptable.
It's acceptable. And if I've let him get away with it for 10 times, yeah, and then I challenge him because I've just had a really bad day and I've had enough of it, yeah, I'm going to cause more problems. Okay, so beliefs, challenging people's beliefs is highly charged, but we have to do it. And we have to do it as soon as we start to see things going wrong. Okay, also on the flip side, if we're the person with the beliefs and our boss challenges us, or one of our peers challenges us, or even one of our team members challenges us, we've got to be big enough and grown up enough, ownership, accountability, responsibility, to go, okay, fine. I take on board your belief that, you know, what I'm doing is wrong. Now, we might have a bit of a difference of opinion here, and I might need to bring you up to speed with why it's happening. If we don't have that conversation, then behavior will either stay the same, or, you know, we're reinforcing the bad behavior. What happens then if a belief is a really deep-rooted belief i.e. a value? So it's somebody's core value. How do we change somebody's values?
By justifying ours to a certain extent.
By justifying ours, yeah. So put that in a religious context, Peter.
I can't. Not a religious person.
See, religion is a set of core beliefs, okay, values. So if I'm a Muslim and you're a Catholic, yeah, and you start extolling the values and virtues of Catholicism, yeah, and I'm a Muslim, am I going to go, oh, do you know what, Peter? Do you know what? You're right.
Nope.
No. Okay. So the key to think about this is, yeah, and at this level, the only person that can change somebody's values is themselves. you have no right to change somebody's values. They're their values. All you can do is say, look, if you're the manager or they're in your company, yeah, is if they don't share your values, is you don't have to employ them. And likewise, if you're working for a company and you don't share the company's values, then don't work for the company. And that's why I said go back to that previous slide. If you remember this one here. But companies got to be based on core values. Because if we get this alignment when we take somebody on, then we know we're not going to go too far wrong. Yeah, if we take somebody on with the wrong values, yeah, and the alignment of the goals is out of kilter, then we've got problems. And if we get down to the real depths of somebody's psyche, then we're really looking at their identity. And the way to think about identity is what you say to yourself about yourself when you're by yourself. And the only way to change somebody's identity is either mind-altering drugs or cognitive therapy. So we're looking here then at the final one within this, and actually one that is actually the easiest to change, is the environment in which that person's working. Because if you think about the iceberg, the biggest influence on an iceberg is the water in which it sits. So before we even look at skills, beliefs, values, and identity, the first thing we should look at is the environment. Is the environment conducive to the behavior that I want? So if you're sitting in a really busy, noisy working environment, and you're trying to get something really important done, the quickest way to change the behavior and get the important stuff done is get you into a quiet environment. I had a client I'm working with, and one of his team members was constantly failing to get projects done and hit deadlines. And he was always working until 8, 10 o'clock at night. Okay, so we looked at this sort of behavior and thought, well, his skills, he's got the skills, he's got the beliefs, he's got the values. I'm like, it's okay. So what's causing this? And we did a little time emotion study on him. And within a 1 hour period, he was interrupted 8 times by members of his team, sometimes 3 times from one member. So what was happening is his environment of his open door and the way that he'd structured his team was actually causing him all the problems. So what we've worked on is a way for him to be able to close his door, not be interrupted, and train his team to actually, respect his time and book time in to see each of the team members. Okay. So again, for ourselves, if we feel that our behavior, we're not achieving what we want to be achieving, think about, is it an environmental thing? Is it a skills thing? Is it a beliefs thing? I would hope it's not a core value or identity thing, but sometimes it can be, and that's when you've got to question it for yourself and go, right, am I going to work on these in order to drive the behavior that I want? Okay. Another little way that we can help with this is a thing called DISC profiling. Have we done DISC with you, Peter?
No.
No. Okay. I think, Lucy, we talked to it with Ranjit. We're going to do a profile for you. So
yeah.
So I'll probably get Pete to get Rob to do yours as well. So,
Okay.
so DISC is a behavioral profile. So it's an attempt to look at the top of that iceberg. Yeah, this, which should be a reflection of what's below. Okay, it's only a reflection, but it, if it's in alignment, it should be what's, a reflection of what's below. And this basically looks at people in 4 ways. We've got outgoing extrovert people. We've got introverted reserved people. We've got people, so what I would call right brain, sort of emotional people, and we've got logical task focused people. And another way to look at it is powerful, peaceful, and perfect. Okay. So the Ds are generally drivers. They're demanding, decisive. They're given the color red. They're a bit shouty. They like to get things done. Their time challenge is no one else does it as well as they could do it. They like to control and fix things. So they're not always good at sort of actually, delegating in the right way. Okay. They're actually, on the whole, when I look at high Ds mostly, they're actually pretty good at time management. Because they're logical, because they're driven, they generally have real clarity around the goal, and therefore they can actually put things in place. And they're not scared of actually delegating and telling people what to do. Okay, but where they can struggle with time management is they sometimes bite off more than they can chew. They take on too much, and they're all, if they haven't built a good enough team around them, they have to keep coming back in and fix things. Eyes are more, again, extrovert, but more people focused. So these are the inspirational, impressionable, inducing, inspiring type people. So they suffer from the magpie syndrome. They get bored very quickly. They always want something nice and shiny to go after. It's called magpie syndrome. They love to talk about the big picture, but they never have a plan or a goal. These people are very bad at doing smart goals. Okay, and they'll start something and then they'll move on and get bored with it and go on to something else. Okay, so they're the people that they flit about. You ask a high I to do something and you think they're going to go and do it, and you chase them up in a week's time. Oh yeah, no, I was going to do that, wasn't I? Oh, shit, I've forgotten about that. Oh, really sorry, because they don't like letting you down. Okay, but you need to provide the accountability to high I. Yeses are more introverted, so more thoughtful. So they like the status quo. They're much happier supporting other people. The problem with that is they can't say no. Okay, they like to support as many people as they can. So they'll keep on saying, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. They're not great at prioritizing, and they're crap at timescales. So if you go and see a high S's desk, it will be filled with paper. All the things they want to do are there. They'll get round to it. And if you ask an S, where is it? They'll know where it is, but it'll be disorganized chaos. So from an outsider's point of view, it's like, what the hell are you doing? In their mind, they've got control over it. But because they've generally taken on too much, they can be the ones that are working late, trying to keep everyone else happy, and they forget about actually keeping themselves happy. And then the C's are more cautious, calculating. These are the analytical people, put the I's, cross the T's. Their problem is everything must be perfect before they move on. So they can get bogged down in procrastination and too much detail, and therefore never get through the workload that they're after. They're rubbish at delegating, okay, because no one else can do a job as well as a high C. Okay, and if I've got to give it to you, I've got to explain how to do it, and by the time I explain how to do it, I may as well do it myself. Okay, and they don't like accountability. They don't like being challenged or challenging people, and therefore they'll avoid situations where, oh, you know, if I get this wrong, they might come down, because these hate losing. Okay, so somebody might come down and tell me I've done a bad job, so I'd rather avoid it. So high C's timelines will be far longer than they need to be, because, you know, their main thing is I don't want to fail. So each of the profiles, so we've got an element of each of those in us all. You know, we've all got an element of DIS and C. We will have one or two prevalent ones that over the years we've learned to actually accept that actually work better for us, and because they work better for us, we tend to do it more. Each one is a strength, but each one is has an equal weakness. So when it comes to time management, if you know what your profile is, then you can start to think, well, yeah, I know I'm a high C, so therefore I know I tend to drag things out. I try to be too much detail. You know, I perhaps don't communicate enough because I'm quite introverted, and therefore the opposite of all of those things are things I need to work on. Where would you see yourself, Lucy, in those?
I'm 100% a D.
100% a D, okay.
Yeah, I've got a bit of I in me, but like, yeah, high D. Me and Randy did go through this the other day, a little bit, but yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So, you know, so the D's great at getting things done. You know, driving. Your weakness is always going to be in the opposite quadrant. Okay, so if you're a high D, your weaknesses are going to be what the S is good at, which is sometimes, you know, it's a little bit like the tailor's philosophy, you know, measure twice, cut once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, D's don't even bother measuring. I mean, just get on with it. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's, oh fuck, I've messed it up. Okay, right. I mean, nothing really gets a D down, because they'll blow up for about 5 minutes, and then tomorrow they'll be fine.
Yeah.
But if you're with C's and S's, what they'll see is, oh my God, it's blown up. Therefore, you know, the world's going to come to an end. Yeah, and they may not see the fact that actually tomorrow's another day, and we'll just move on. So, what about you, Peter? Where do you see yourself?
Well, I watched a bit of your sales one of Rob the other week, and I would have definitely put myself in the C category. But after that, I'm well, and I kind of wrote down as you were saying them. I would say I'm more C, but there's certainly a lot of DNS, but I'm nowhere near I.
Yeah. I mean, C's in their area of expertise will show D traits. So if you know something so well and you're so confident about it, you will come across to most people as a D.
Yeah.
I always say that the best way to sort of assess it is if I chuck Lucy into a completely new situation, yeah, with complete strangers, yeah, she will generally behave in the same way.
Yeah.
Whereas if I chucked a high C into that situation, you know, they'll go, oh shit, I don't like this. So they'll be a little bit more introverted and a bit more cautious in an area where they're not got experience.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So in your area of experience, yeah, there'll be times where you are, you know, you're probably more D than most Ds, because you're so cocksure about what you're talking about. That's where your confidence comes from. But a D is confident even if they've got no idea what they're talking about.
Make it till you make it.
Bullshit city, you know. Yeah, but that's the thing, that you know they can just cope with those situations in that way. Not always the right way. Not to say there are certain times where you shouldn't do that sort of thing, you know, but often they get away with it. You know? So That's really, a big part of our belief system. It's who we are, how we behave, and understanding ourselves, but also understanding other people is really important within that. Okay. And we've got to start thinking, so once we understand more about ourselves, we can then start thinking about, okay, so what do I need to do? Okay, so what are the actions that I now know my goal. I've got an understanding of who I am and who I need to be. Now it's a case of what do I actually need to do. So one of the key things, this comes from a book by a guy called Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So he studied some of the most sort of successful people of his time. And he came up with, there were 7 traits that they all shared. One of those traits is the way they manage their time. And he looked at it and said, in life, there are important things and urgent things. Okay. So the high level of importance and a high level of urgency. So if something's urgent, Lucy, how do I know it's urgent?
Well, for like with what we do, it's time frame, like promises to clients a time frame. So if the time frame's coming up, where it's like it's due this Friday or something, then that is priority.
Yep.
Or for example, say if something dramatically wrong went on site, then that would take lead because there's a safety aspect.
Yeah. So basically, there's a consequence of getting it wrong. So if I don't do it now, something bad's going to happen. Okay, so that's generally how I assess urgency. Pete, what about importance? How do I know if something's important?
The value of not doing it, or the value you lose of not doing it as such.
Yeah, but I would sort of say that's urgency. That's, again, there's a consequence. If I don't do it, there's a consequence.
I don't know in that case.
What do we talk about at the start? What was the most important thing on the be do have? The goal. Okay, so you can only assess if something's important if it's in alignment with the goal. So this is why time management, the first thing you've got to be clear on, what's the goal? Because if you don't have clarity around what's the goal, you cannot assess what's important. The more clear you are with it, the easier time management is.
Yeah, makes sense.
So what we look at here is, say, during our day, we end up spending time doing not important and not urgent stuff. There's no consequence of not doing it, and it's not helping me achieve my goals. So Lucy, give me an example of something that would be a distraction, not urgent, not important.
But like outside factors, maybe. I don't know. There's a couple of things, maybe. So maybe a distraction is something not important, not urgent. I don't know, something maybe that's going on. I suppose that is important. I was about to say something maybe in your personal life, so it's not task orientated, so it's not like the urgent deadline thing, but maybe there's something that you know that you need to deal with at a later date in your personal life. Or not urgent, not important. It's something you're planning future. So maybe it's like we have templates that we're trying to produce for the future. It's not urgent or crazy important right now, but it will be when it gets to it. Does that?
Yeah, I would hold that one. I think we'll come on to that.
Okay.
So Pete, if you're sitting at your computer, and you've got a web browser open, are there times where you get distracted and end up down a little rabbit hole looking at pointless stuff?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I'm not too bad on that front, actually. So an example I would have from the other day was I went and got rid of all the old emails in my inbox. Doesn't really achieve anything. It's not urgent. It's not important. But I felt like I was being productive, but in reality, probably wasn't.
Okay. I mean, if that was going to help you free up headspace elsewhere, then maybe it is. A bit of tidying up isn't a bad thing. But it'd be more like, where you get sucked into Facebook. You know, I've just searched something on Google and I saw one of the ads and I clicked the ads, and then 10 minutes later I'm searching for, you know, dehumidifiers. You know, what the fuck am I doing here? You know, I mean, that's what the internet and adverts are designed to do, is to suck you in and distract you from what's important in life. So we've basically got to look at this and say, you know, I need to. Oops. My pen not working. Cool. I need to get rid of that stuff. Okay. Then we move into the not important but urgent. So now it's urgent. There's a consequence of not doing it, but it's not important to me. So if it's not important to me, yeah, then who is it important to?
Probably the person that's asked for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody else. The person that's asked for it has said, can you get this done? Now, if you've got no idea what your goals are, then, and you're generally an I, an S, or a C, yeah, you'll turn around and say, okay. So you delude yourself in the fact that I'm busy because I'm busy helping other people achieve their goals rather than achieve my goals. Now, obviously, if that's your boss, you know, and that's your job role, then that's not important. That's important because that's your job. But there's many things that come in that we end up busy doing that we've got to keep coming back to our goal. Is this important for me achieving my goal? And sometimes we've got to say no, and sometimes we've got to delegate that out and say, well, it shouldn't be me doing it, let somebody else do that. So again, we might better remove this. We certainly want to reduce it. Then we look at the urgent and important. So this is now important. It is important to help us achieve our goals. And it's also, you know, there's a consequence of not doing it now. So this is our firefighting, our demand. Okay, now this is where a lot of people spend too much of their time. Yeah, constantly firefighting, going round that hamster wheel, running. And so if we're in here, that's when the reptilian brain kicks in, which is really good at that, but it's not looking far forwards. It's not actually saying, well, where's this going to take me? And one of the main reasons things become important, yeah, and urgent, because we didn't do them when they were
Not urgent.
not urgent. Now, if you were sort of that sort of person that back in school, college, university, you know, that always did your homework and had, you know, the night before, and you're up at two in the morning and handed it in, yeah, generally when you did that, did you get away with it?
50-50.
50-50. Okay. Most people say, yeah, they got away with it. Yeah. Therefore, what's that program their brain to think?
You can.
So yeah, it's okay to do that.
Okay to do it. And also when you do it, yeah, because you're now in fight or flight, your reptilian brain's kicked in, yeah, your body's just been filled with a load of adrenaline. Okay, you hand it in, you achieve your goal, so you get a massive whack of dopamine. Yeah, your brain is actually going, I work much better under pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, which is completely bullshit. Yeah, it's just that you've trained your brain to actually, you know, deal with those situations. If you'd actually planned it in, spent more time on it, you would have got a much better mark and done a much better job.
Mm.
And this is why those beliefs kick in that, oh yeah, but I work better under pressure, I work better at deadlines, you know, all of these things. No, you don't. You just believe that you've done it because based on past behaviors. So what we've got to be looking at is what we're really trying to do is get time. Yeah, here. We're doing not urgent, so so we don't have to get it done today, but it is important because it's helping me achieve my goals. So I'm getting rid of this, reducing this, put more time into here. If we don't have a plan around what we're going to do here, then if we get to sort of Monday, let's say Wednesday morning, where I've planned in to do my working on the business or working on my plan, if I get to that, I don't know what I'm going to do, and the phone rings, somebody comes in and says, "Could you just do this for me?" Yeah, or a fire breaks out. Well, you're naturally just going to go back into there, or you end up surfing the internet. Oh, why am I here? Oh, yeah, but it's 12 o'clock now. I better move on. So if we look at these areas, resist and cease, phone calls, emails, social media, chat, gossip, pointless routines. This can be a tough one. Yeah. Sometimes you've got to just bow out of meetings. You've got to say no. So a client I was dealing with earlier this week, I think he had 8 meetings on one day. And I said, well, were they important? Well, they were to the other people holding them. I said, yeah, but were they important to you? Not really. Okay, then you've got to come up with a way where either you're not at the meetings, or if you are there, it is important for you to be there for 10 minutes. You say before the meeting starts, look, I'm here for 10 minutes, but then I'm going to go. Because he was doing his bit for 10 minutes and then hanging around for an hour and a half waiting for everyone to finish because he was polite. Get things done if they need to get done. There are some things you need to actually work on, but the key is really thinking about this time to think, time to plan, time to develop. To be honest, your thing about deleting the emails, I'd say, yeah, I think for me that's clearing your desk, clearing out in the inbox. To me, is an important thing.
Okay,
it's not urgent. It doesn't have to be done. The world doesn't stop if I don't do it. But once I've done it, if that allows me to work at a higher level, then that gets my vote every day. Okay. So once we understand, that our time is going to be in one of those 4 areas, we want to be in control of it. So therefore, we want to be focused on, the sort of in the zone area. In order to control our time, the first thing you need to do is review it. Okay, you've got to review where your time is going. You've got to be aware of what's actually happening. You've then got to prioritize it and say, right, this is what I want to achieve. And then you've got to get it organized and put into practice. So in order to review, the first thing you've got to understand is, what hats are you wearing? What roles are you actually in charge of? Now, Lucy, generally yours is a little bit easier because you're new, you've been brought in, you've got a roles responsibilities, you've got a 13-week induction process, you know what your hats are.
Yeah.
Pete, you've been around a long time, and you've probably picked up a lot of hats along the way. Okay, but depends on, and it's can depend on many things. The first thing you've got to identify is really, what hats do you have to wear? And then what I would say is you then keep a time log. Okay, and you say, right, these are the hats that I'm wearing. So maybe it's sales, marketing, operations, it could be HR team meetings, whatever those hats you feel, those areas. And generally there's not going to be more than 6. if you're doing more than 6, when more than 6 acts, then we've got a big problem. But I tend to find busy people will probably max out around about 6. Then you'd sort of say, right, each day, keep a log of the time I spend with each hat. Okay, and just review that for a few weeks. How many hours do I spend doing the different tasks I'm actually responsible for? Because as soon as you put it down, it stops becoming an emotional thing. It becomes a logical thing, and your neocortex can deal with logical problems. It's not very good at dealing with emotional problems. So we put those in, we keep track of that, and then we record where our time's going. Once we know where our
so you're saying high level there, though, so it's not what I'm doing as in who I'm working for client-wise, it's...
No, just client work. So one of the hats is I do client chargeable work.
Right, fine, yeah.
I'm not really bothered about whether you do Fred's book, Fred or Jim's or, company A, B or C. You might have that in your own time recording system, that's fine. And you might be able to pull that data out from there. But at this level, I'm looking very high level. Is it client chargeable work? Is it admin work? Is it traveling? Is it, what are those key areas where your time disappears?
Yeah.
And because the other thing is to be honest and say, how many hours a week am I actually working? And am I happy with that? Could be better. Okay. So you'd fill all this in. So you'd sort of be saying, let's say it was, client work. Yeah, I did 5 hours there, 3 hours there, 5 hours there, 8 hours there, 7 hours there. Okay, so I've got 10, 15, 20, I've got 28 hours. Yeah, let's say I'm working 56 hours a week, so I've got 50% of my time is client facing. I'd then say, right, once I know that, then you'd say, right, well, what's my target? Okay, what do I want this to be? Now you might say, well, I want more time here. So that should be 75%. You might say, actually, no, that should be 25%. So then you can look down all of these and say, well, that's what it is, but I want it to be. So now we're starting to set the reticular activating system, the IVVM of, right, what does my perfect week start to look like? Once I've got a view of where I am at the moment, we can then use a little thing called a skill fund matrix, which says, of all those tasks that I'm doing, where do they fit here? Is it low skill, low fun stuff down here? Okay, so if it's in this, right, tend to work. If it's in this box here, yeah, I need to get rid of that. Doesn't need my level of skill and I don't enjoy it. Okay, so I need to be able to delegate that to somebody else. Now, it might be there's no one else in the organization to do that. And therefore, we've got to feed back and say, look, at some point, I'm going to need an apprentice or I'm going to need an administrator, or we can outsource it or we systemize it. But I've got to get rid of that work because I don't enjoy doing it and it doesn't need my level of skill. If you've got some stuff you really enjoy, it doesn't need your level of skill, yeah, in that box, I would say keep that to less than 10% of your time. Now, there are some jobs that actually you love doing. Do you need to do them? No, but I actually enjoy doing them. But no more than 10% of your working week should be spent doing that. So there'll be some things that you enjoy doing, you should just stop doing. So I had a client once that used to like going to the bank. He took the sort of daily cash, and he went down the bank, he paid it in, he had a chat with the cashiers. This was a long time ago when we had cash. And he would do a bit of shopping in Marks, and then he'd come back. And that was probably an hour and a half, 2 hours of his day. And it was like, well, do you need to be that? You're the MD of the company, you know, should you be spending 2 hours a day, you know, nipping down the shops? So in the end, you know, we managed to get rid of that, and he basically, you know, he'd go once a week, I think. So we reduce that down to minimum 10%. Well, obviously, we want to be doing this stuff here. So high skill, high fun, stuff I enjoy doing and I'm good at. The problem comes for this stuff. Yeah. High skill, low fun. The stuff that we're doing that really only we can do, but actually it's a bit of a, excuse my French, a bit of a ball ache. So what do we do with this then? How do we get rid of it? Because I can't delegate this because it's too skilled, you know, and this is where high C's get frustrated. Well, I can't give it to you because I'll have to train you up, you know, and it's not worth it, so I'll keep on doing it. What would you say we need to do to overcome that?
Overcome as in have to do it less, or overcome
How do we get ourselves out of that box?
Try and figure out how you can make it fun, or how you can combine it with something else. I don't know.
Or you have to train or you have to train someone else up.
You can train somebody else up. Yeah. So you can either train somebody up, be as good as you, but you think, well, how many years have you been doing it? How many years are going to take them to be able to do it? The way that we do this is we need to de-skill it. Okay, we've got to take it away because 80% of that process here can be de-skilled.
Yes.
We can put a process in place, we can create a program, we can do something that takes as much of that skill out of here as we possibly can.
Okay, so what can you do in the situations where it does require years of experience and knowledge, and you can't just technically de-skill it?
Work out how to de-skill it.
Okay.
Otherwise you're destined to do it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a choice. You know, if there really is no other way, then you're stuck with it. But to me, that's just an excuse. There's always a way. Or you've got it, or you'd have to go out and pay for somebody who's as good as you to do that job. So a good one for this is if you look at a Michelin star restaurant.
Yep.
Okay. Who is the best chef in a Michelin star restaurant?
The one that holds the star.
The one that holds the star. You know, the Gordon Ramsay. Okay. If it was just him, yeah, and he believed that I'm the only one skillful enough to create these dishes, yeah, then he'd never be able to create a restaurant. Or if he did, he'd be working, yeah, every single night, every single day of the week.
That comes down to training them up again.
Train them up, but also, because if you look at MasterChef, what do?
Other than cook good food.
The big thing is you have a recipe.
Right.
Okay, you have a really good recipe, a process, and you train them up. So basically you train them up. Yeah. So you train them up and you create a process. Somewhere in here, you know, is the level that you're okay with. If you can't process it that much, you need to train them up higher. If you can really have a great process, you don't have to train them up that much. But there's got to be something in there that you've got to look at it. Yeah, and every situation is different, but every situation you've got to come up with a way to do it. And if you believe there is a way, you'll find a way. If you believe there isn't a way, then you'll never find a way.
Makes sense.
Okay, so by using the little skill fun matrix, we can start to see, right, well, what are the jobs that we need to de-skill? what are the jobs that we can delegate straight away, what are the jobs that we actually just need to reduce, and all of that should free us up time to do more of the high skill, high fun stuff. Okay, so now we're starting to see, right, now I know where my time is. I now know what I need to get rid of and I shouldn't be doing. I can pass that to somebody else. And then we can start putting the process together to actually get our days being productive. And the little thing I use for this is a little concept of rocks, gravel and sand. I don't know if you've come across that before. So imagine I've got these jars here and I've got a load of rocks, I've got a load of gravel, and I've got a load of sand, or big, small, large rocks. In order to get all of those rocks in here, what needs to go in first? The sand, the gravel, or the rocks?
The rocks.
The rocks. So I put the rocks in first, and then what happens with the gravel?
It will fill the holes.
Yeah. Fills in between, and then the sand is between that. If I leave it empty and the sand goes in or the small stuff goes in, there's never enough room to do the rocks. So the rocks are the important, not urgent things. So if we don't put these into the diary first, what happens is that the delusional, the demand, and the distractions, all go in first. And then there's never enough time. You get to fast. I haven't done it again this week. I haven't done it again this week. I haven't done it again this week. So what we have to do is we have to create, basically, it's what I call a default diary, a school timetable. Okay, so if you remember, if you can remember your school timetable, a lot of it is about getting important things done in a certain time frame during the week, because there are only, let's say, 40 hours in the week. You can't create more, therefore we've got to use what we've got in the best way, and schools are a good way to sort of look at this. So if you can go back, remember when you were back at school, after assembly, what was the first lesson on a Monday morning?
No idea.
No idea.
You can't remember? God,
yeah.
I would guess it was either double maths or double English.
I think that vary quite a lot. I honestly can't remember.
I don't know. That's what I remember. Back in my day, so when we were writing on slates, it was always Monday morning was basically, for me, I mean, English wasn't great, but maths was all right. But it was the important stuff that was done first thing. And it was the frog. It was the one thing that if you didn't really want to look forward to that until the end of the week. What was always on a Wednesday afternoon? This one should be easier. Sport. Okay, so it was basically break the week up. Did you go to school, Peter?
Yeah, but I don't think we had structured things like this. I'll change every kind of like term it mixed around a bit.
So Wednesday afternoon is generally sport, or some form of sort of easy activity to break the week up. What was always on a Friday afternoon?
Art, maybe?
Yeah, be art, pottery, woodwork, some form of more sort of easy end to the week. That if you didn't really, I always look at it, well, don't attend it, it's not going to affect my life that much. So it's a good time to bunk off. So the timetable was generally designed around, looking after, kids who aren't looking that far forward, a little bit sort of need structure in their life, but there's important things that need to be done on a day-by-day basis. We are no different as adults, we've got the same genetic makeup, and therefore having this structure, to me is really what everybody needs. Now, there are times, because we've got these different hats, that our diary gets sabotaged. So we come on a Monday, think we're going to do client-facing work, the phone rings and we're doing something else. That's why it's called a default diary, because it's always the default you go back to at the beginning of the week. You know it's going to get changed and moved around during the week. That's okay. But come Monday morning, it refreshes, it starts again. And that's what we're aiming to achieve. So our default diary is always almost like, if I could live the perfect week, what would it look like? Because if you can't visualize it, you can't make it happen. You'll come in on a Monday and suddenly you're being reactive, and then the whole week is just a reactive mess. You get to Friday and think, oh, I've done nothing this week. Absolutely achieved nothing. Okay, it's not because you haven't been able to, it's because you didn't have structure that you were trying to get back to. Now, if you know here that client work is the most important thing you need to get done, and that phone rings, then you've a chance of actually saying, no, sorry, I can't deal with it. Or not even pick up the phone, not look at the email. Okay, so I've got a client who's trying to get a particular project done. Okay, and he was struggling to get, he needs to do this every morning. He needs to do an hour or two on this every morning in order to move it forward. And he was struggling. He was doing it once a week, and he was trying to do it in the afternoon, and then he would feel a bit, a bit flat, and he didn't have the motivation to do it. So I said, if you think about it, in the morning, what's the first thing you do every day? And he said, I come down, I feed the dog, and I make a cup of coffee. And I said, how do you feel at that stage? You've fed the dog's happy, and you've got your cup of coffee, so I feel really good. I said, right, that's the time you want to do the most difficult thing of your week. So, but what I do then is I then look at my emails. And I spend about half an hour to an hour doing the emails. So great. So after you've done the emails, do you feel more motivated or less motivated than before you started your emails? What was his answer?
Less.
Less. Because whenever do you get an email and go, yes, I feel really good for reading that email? Unless you win the lottery, never. So I said, right, what you've got to stop now is you can't do emails until lunchtime. And look at them, and even open up that Pandora's box. So get your cup of coffee, sit down and do that most important thing of the week straight after. And that became his default diary. He's working on it now. He's doing okay, gets hijacked every now and then, but he's been far more effective than he was before. Okay, so also do think about your own biorhythms, when you feel good, when you feel motivated, when you feel down. Another one, he was trying to get some sales calls in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And he said, I just don't feel like doing them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, don't do them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon then. Don't feel like doing them, don't do them. When do you feel, when would be good? So he ended up doing them at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 till 12, and at 2 till 4, he did something that was a little bit more mundane and a bit easier to get his head around. Okay, so your default diary, to me, I mean, this changed my life really. When I discovered this and started using it. And really, when people start going, oh, I'm a bit, I'm not getting things done. Say, well, when was the last time you default diary? Oh, 3 months ago. Okay, well, you've got to redo it. In the early days, I was doing a default diary every 3 months. It was every 6 months. Now it's once a year.
What do you mean, as in adjusting it?
Because things change. You know, there's times when I was fully on it, and you know, every minute of every day was taken up with something. Now, you know, I'm working on a sort of probably 3-day a week default diary, because what's important to me now is playing golf and doing other things. Okay, but that's down to my own personal priorities and what's important. You know, one stage in my life, work was number one important. Other stages, something else is important. Yeah, and you know, things like, you know, for me, you know, marketing was extremely important, but now I've outsourced most of that, so I don't have to do marketing. So it's client facing, coaching work, and sales calls. So it will always change, but you're working towards not today's default diary, a period in the future's default diary. So we've got a review of where we are. We've got structure now that we can start putting ourselves. Oh, the other thing I wanted to just say with this is, let's say I've got sales meetings to do on Thursday. Okay, so I've created the space to do sales meetings on Thursday. So I know on Thursday, right, between 2 and 5 sales meetings. If I get to 1 o'clock on a Thursday and start having to think, right, what sales meetings do I need to put in here? Who do I need to phone? Yeah, complete disaster. Because you're now having to think about this and use your neocortex, which is quite slow. It's not great. If something urgent pops in, or something more exciting pops in, your limbic system goes, or your reptilian brain goes, oh, that's more important, so I'll deal with that now. So what we need to do is, at the beginning of the week, is where we've created the space, we've now got to put the activity in. Okay, so the way I do that is I run a CRM system, and for my sales calls, they're all listed there. So first thing I do, 2 o'clock on a Thursday, right, go through my list of callbacks. And I just start at the top. I don't even prioritize it. I just go start at the top and work my way through the list. And if I get through the list by 4 o'clock, things are good. Because the worst thing you can do is go, there's my list. Which one shall I do? Oh no, because I won't do that one. And perhaps I should do that one. And I'll do this one. And yeah, and you've wasted time thinking about it. Yeah. Whereas you've got to phone them all anyway, otherwise they wouldn't be on your list. So just start at the top and work down. And if you get into that, if you start it and continue it, then you actually feel better for it. And the concept of that comes, from a little thing that we call the 20-mile march. So, any idea who this guy is?
Shackleton or something like
that? Close. The flag gives it away.
My knowledge isn't good enough.
Get into history books. So this is a guy called Amundsen. So he was in the race to the South Pole with Scott at the Antarctic. Okay, now everyone remembers Scott. People see he was a good leader. Quite a charismatic guy, bit of a DI type of individual. Amundsen was a very high C. Okay, very, very analytical, very process driven. Scott thought he could get to the South Pole using machines. Okay, so he took loads of machines, big caterpillars. This is in the very early 1900s. So when machines were big, heavy, and not designed for purpose. So he took the machines off the ramps. What immediately happened to the machines?
Froze. They sunk.
Froze and sunk. Broke down. Useless. Okay. So then he had a fallback plan, which was horses. Okay. So he had all these horses lined up, taken to the South Pole. Yeah. what do horses do when they exercise?
Need to eat.
They need to eat. So how much hay do they need to eat for a 2-month campaign?
A hell of a lot.
A hell of a lot. So most of the time the horses were carrying the hay they had to carry to feed the horses. Yeah. What do they do when they work hard?
They sweat and then
They
they get
sweat.
very cold.
And what does sweat do in minus 15, 20 degree temperatures? Freeze. So how long did the horses last?
Not very long.
Not very long. So that's why Scott ended up walking.
He did eat
Putting
them
it-
though, didn't he? If I remember rightly.
Sorry,
He did eat them in the end, didn't they?
did they eat the?
Horses, didn't they?
I think they did for a bit, but
Yeah.
they didn't last. Well, they were too far back. You know, they had their rations. So Amundsen, on the other hand, did his sort of due diligence. So he went to the North Pole and met with the Inuit Eskimos and said to them, if you were trying to do a campaign in the North Pole to survive for 2 months, how would you travel? And they said huskies. They said you take 3 times the number of huskies you need. Yeah. Because when one dies, you feed it to the others. So you don't need to take any food. So you basically start with more than you need and you end up with far less than, because they're just, okay, it's not a particularly pleasant thing, but this is about survival. He also looked at it and said, if we're going to get to the South Pole, the one thing we don't have control over is the conditions. It can go from beautiful sunshine, no wind, to snowing and torrential wind. We're going over unknown terrain, really rocky terrain. So his concept was, the way we're going to achieve this is we do 20 miles every day, irrespective of what the conditions throw at us. Scott, on the other hand, said, we're going to make hay work while the sun shines. So when it's good, we're going to do 40 miles. When it's bad, we're going to stay in our tents. So by, I think, the 3rd day, Scott was miles ahead. Yeah. Then the weather kicked in and they spent a day on the canvas. 2nd day, the weather was bad. They stayed under canvas. Amundsen did 20 miles every day, whatever the conditions. Finished early when it was good, and continued when it was bad. And then obviously that Scott got I think about 2 miles from the South Pole, and the whole of his team perished. So the concept is a little and often is far better than erratic. We're gonna have a really good week here and get loads done, and then next week we don't do anything. So by building that into your default diary, it really helps with that pace of what you're actually doing. How many calls am I going to do this week? Right, do the 50. Okay, how much project work I'm going to do? Build it in. Get that rhythm, get that consistency day in, day out, week in, week out, rather than peak, trough, peak, trough, peak, trough. You'll feel better. You'll make far more progress with it. Yeah. And you'll be able to cope when things happen that are outside your control. Final concept is a little thing called Eat That Frog. Have you heard of that? So the concept of eating the frog is, eat a live frog every morning and nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. So what is that thing that's on your to-do list that you've been putting off? Yeah, that's the thing you need to do first thing on a Monday morning. Okay, and if you make time in your diary every morning to eat a frog and know what frog you're going to eat, then just get it done, get it out of the way, and then the rest of the week is much better. Okay, and the final thing, I suppose, is that there's a little concept I call the 4 Ds, which is sort of in line with this. So anything that crosses your desk has to fit one of these Ds. Either you do it, so it gets done immediately. You defer it, yeah, so you put it forward to a future date. Now, the key to that is assign it a date. Okay, it's not it goes on the pile, it goes on the pile to actually be done at some point in the time. In the old days, pre-computers, we had a thing called a tickler system. So it was one of those concertina files, if you remember those, that you could sort of put paper in. So lots of little dividers, yeah, and you could put paper in. And you'd mark it up 4 weeks of the month, yeah, and then 12 months of the year. So if you were going to defer it, it went into the week that you were going to do it. So if you're going to defer it a week, it would go into next week's pile. If I was going to do it in January, it would go into January's pile. So you had to put it into a date where it was going to get done. Okay, so you either do it, defer it, you delegate it, so give it to somebody else. Yeah, this is low skill, low fun for me. Pass it on to somebody else, or you ditch it. You just throw it away. And that's the concept that I've taken on with my inbox. Okay, so I work to a 0 inbox. Okay, now it only happens, it's happened a bit more times this year, but probably 3 or 4 times a year do I get to a completely 0 inbox. But that's always my goal. So at the moment, my inbox, I think, has got 6 things in it. Okay, and that's not too bad for midweek. By Friday, it should be no more than 2, preferably 0.
I'd like your inbox.
You can have my inbox. It's one of the most therapeutic things I ever did. Okay, it's a bit like your desk. You know, if your desk is full of paper, the first thing you got to do is clear it. Because just by looking at it, looking at all of that paper, looking at all those things, you're slowing your brain down. Your neocortex is going, I've got to deal with all those things. I've got to deal with all those things. Which ones do I deal with? Oh, I can't deal with any of them. Well, you've just wasted all that brain power trying to ignore things that don't really need to be done. And you'll know, Peter, within Outlook, if you use an Outlook, you can set up a file system and you just put things in files. But I guarantee you put them in a file unit, you'll never look at them again.
Yeah, that's why lots of things are in my inbox still.
Yeah, so just delete it, because it will be there. It'll be in your deleted files. So if you want to go back to it, but tomorrow it will just be filled up with more stuff. Okay, so one of the biggest parts of time management is the ditch it bit. It's actually be brutal. You know, if it's not going to help me achieve my goals, then just get rid of it. Desubscribe, cancel, just cancel it. Just get it out of your plate. If it's that important, you'll go back and re-register for it. But say, until you start to respect your time, no one's going to respect it for you. So, things to sort of take away with you is set your goals for the year, the quarter, the week. Yeah. Think about those limiting beliefs, the DISC profile, so where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, and then do your time audit and complete a default diary. If you want I've got samples of those. If you want those, I can send them to you. I think Rob's got them as well, and certainly Ranjit's got them, Lucy. So talk to him about those.
I will do.
Cool. And brings us to, you know, after all that's said and done, more often said than ever done. So it's all about taking action. So Lucy, what was the number one thing you got from today, and what are you going to do as a result?
Well, that's hard to say what the number one thing was. But I think I'm going to start like looking at, I don't know, well, it's a bit difficult because, of course, I'm only partly in charge of my schedule in a way, but I know when I'm most creative and when I'm most literate, I suppose. So I know that writing tasks and drawing tasks work better for me at different times of day. So maybe it's looking at flexibility around that. So if I do the plan, if I do the default diary, to look at how I might be able to lay that out and almost evaluate that each week with the prioritizing of the tasks.
Yep.
So
yeah, just say, I mean, we sort of say that, but you know, you say everybody wants you to perform at your best.
Mm-hmm.
You do, Ranjit does, I do. So if you need to change your diary so that you perform at your best, then do it. You know, talk to Ranjit about it, because he might have a different opinion and see things you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, co-create it. Say, look, you know, based on what we've talked about today, this is what I think I should be doing, and let's run it. And if I don't give my best, then we'll change it. So,
yeah.
Well, good. Peter?
Create a default diary and try to actually stick to it. And learn when to, well, try to de-skill some of the stuff I do.
Yeah.
So I can offload a bit more of it in reality.
Yeah.
Rather than always having to be, well, taking up my time when there's certain parts of it I really enjoy, but the bit that takes the longest probably I don't enjoy, but there's no one else that can do it currently.
I mean, the key to that is the more you visualize what you want it to be like, you know, how your working week is going to be and what you're going to be doing, the easier it will be then for you to then say, right, okay, if I want to get to there, then this is what I've got to do. If you don't have that vision of the future, it'll always be too much like hard work.
Yeah.
You know, we only put a man on the moon because, you know, Kennedy had a vision of having a man on the moon, you know, otherwise it'd be too much like hard work. Why bother? That's what Elon Musk is doing. You know, he wants to put you know, it's his vision of putting a man on Mars. You know, that's why he's doing what it takes. So, and we're not anywhere near putting men on Mars or women on Mars or William Shatner on Mars. So. Well, good. Well, it's been a pleasure having you guys with us today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Take care, and yeah, look forward to seeing the good things that are reported back to me from Ranjit and Rob. So we'll see you soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Now,
Thank you, Kevin. Bye-bye.